How do you guys feel about learning about how not to get arrested in the courthouse? Interested? Great. This one's a pretty simple situation. A video was posted in January on a channel called Tucson Police Suck, which shows an auditor by the name of El Charro Negro getting arrested. He entered the courthouse, passed through the security checkpoint, had his bag scanned, and then continued forward. But the security guards noticed he had a camera, which was filming, and they ordered him to stop. El Charro refused and was arrested. Why? Because usually cameras aren't allowed in the courtroom. Well, if there's no filming allowed, then why are the security cameras authorized? First, that's a terrible argument, and I see it all the time, and it's very frustrating because common sense is a thing, and I wish people use it more often. Filming is authorized at the courtroom's discretion. Of course, they're going to be okay with their own security cameras. But speaking of common sense, when I was live streaming with Brian King, a couple people asked why I had my background covered with a green cloth. Folks, this background isn't real. It is, in fact, a green screen. Check this out. Boom. And back. Whoa. Whoa. Oh my God. Moving on. Why is the government allowed to restrict filming at all? Now, there are a few reasons, and the first one is that the courthouse is a non-public forum, which means it can be subject to more restrictions than you would find in a traditional public forum, like a sidewalk or a park. In 1989, the Supreme Court established a test found in Ward v. Rock against racism to determine the constitutionality of restrictions to the First Amendment. 3 elements had to be met. 1, the restriction was content neutral. 2, they served a significant government interest. And 3, they left open ample channels of communication. I discussed this briefly in my videos on filming in public, which you can find here, but I'll reiterate some points. In a courtroom, the restrictions can't be based on content. For example, if CNN and Fox News both wanted to film a case, the court couldn't pick one over the other based on the type of news they broadcast. The restrictions must also serve a significant government interest, and to explain this, I have to give a bit of a history lesson. In 1946, the Federal Rules of Criminal Procedures were established, and Rule 53 contained the following. Except as otherwise provided by a statute or these rules, the courts must not permit the taking of photographs in the courtroom during judicial proceedings or the broadcasting of judicial proceedings from the courtroom. In 1972, similar rules were added to the list of prohibited activities in a courtroom or surrounding areas by the Judicial Conference of the United States. This prohibition was written into the Code of Conduct for United States judges. Since then, there have been a few committees established to determine if these rules should still apply, and for the most part, the resounding answer was yes, most recently in 2016. It turns out, many people react differently when they know they are being filmed, which can adversely affect court proceedings. This is why the prohibition serves a significant government interest. As for leaving open channels for communication, it is important to remember that a camera isn't the only tool that can be used to document a news story. Notes can be taken, pictures can be drawn, but cameras and other recording devices must be approved by the judge. Unfortunately, Tucson Police Suck and El Charro Negro must have forgotten about this incident because I found another video involving Tucson Police Suck, El Charro Negro, and someone identified as Slinky in a courtroom, which was published on the 3rd of July. I'm not familiar with any of these people, so I might be getting their identities wrong, but I believe this is El Charro Negro, this is Slinky, and Tucson Police Suck is the guy in the black. Might be wrong, not terribly important. No idea who the filmer is. In this video, we see a police officer approach El Charro, and originally, I thought it was about a paperwork issue because the audio wasn't very clear and the officer was holding some paperwork, but more on that later. El Charro didn't want to follow the instructions of the officer, and Slinky wasn't happy about the officer's presence either, claiming that he was holding up the procedure. Guess what? The officer is acting on behalf of the court, and it is in fact the refusal to comply which is holding up the procedure. And keep in mind, the procedure being held up is roll call. That's what they're complaining about. More officers were called in to remove El Charro, who physically resisted the officers, and the filmer was told to stop filming or leave. Slinky told the officers that he was filming as well and challenged the officers to arrest him too, indicating that El Charro's arrest was actually due to filming in the courtroom and not because of a paperwork issue. As Slinky continued to be upset by the response to his friend's poor life choices, one of the other people in the court reminded him that there are signs everywhere that say filming is prohibited. Again, this is a non-public forum. Filming can absolutely be restricted. The man that I believe is Tucson also had his phone out, which wouldn't make sense unless he was also making a recording. 7 minutes and 40 seconds into the video, Slinky can be heard confirming that El Charro was being arrested for filming in court. And by the end of the video, all 4 of them have been removed. No, I'm not forgetting about the man in the hoodie who's also filming. The video cuts out before we know if anything happened to him. Long story short, though, don't film in a courtroom. Also, don't claim the police are acting like Nazis by arresting you for behavior that is clearly prohibited by signs and can be lawfully enforced. This shouldn't be difficult. It's a courtroom. That's where the police often are. If you're going to be violating rules, what do you expect? They're there. If you're like, I don't know, parking in a parking spot and you're not paying for it, you're like, maybe they'll not show up and check the meters. I get that. I'm not agreeing with that, but I get it. But you're in a courtroom with police. You had to pass the police to get into the courtroom. What? Both of the videos can be found in my description, as well as more information about the history of banning cameras in a courtroom. Feel free to ask me questions in the comment section. However, if you want to make sure I see your comment, I'm more likely to get notified if you send it to me on Twitter, but it's entirely up to you. Until the next time, be good, stay safe.